The Berrien Historical Foundation, Annual Report 2020. The Berrien Historical Foundation, like so many other businesses and organizations, was greatly impacted by the coronavirus. Most of our members and visitors fell into the age group that was most vulnerable to the virus. We were only able to meet for our January annual report meeting and our February meeting presentation of George's Goatman before the virus quarantine started and the library was closed to all groups. Though we were not meeting as an organization for the remainder of the year, as curator of the Berrien Historical Museum and Archive, I was still at the office every weekday, conducting the business of the Berrien Historical Foundation. My report on my achievements while working safe and solo is reported here. As I mentioned before, we met for our January 2019 annual report, the 25th anniversary of the foundation. I made a PowerPoint presentation with an overview of each month's program and itemizing the new exhibits and improvements made in the old courthouse. I also reported on our first ever monetary grant from the Georgia Historical Archives. The February meeting featured the PowerPoint presentation of George's Goatman, which was well attended and prompted a great deal of interest in the community by those who recall Charles McCartney and his herd of goats, pulling his makeshift wagon-like home. I had almost finished creating the March PowerPoint program, The Excursions, Getaways to Mayhaw Lake, Dixie Lake, and Lucy Lake, when we went into quarantine. So that program will probably be our first one this year when we can safely meet again. Thus ended our regular membership group association. So here are the other activities that have been going on behind the scenes while the foundation door was closed to the public. In early January, Elise Butler of the Georgia Historical Society called me and offered to research and resubmit our third and last opportunity to get a Georgia historical marker for America's first Doughboy Monument. She really wanted to get it approved, and I am very grateful that she did. For the better part of March, I took delivery of the steel shelving and archival storage material that was approved by the GHRAC grant from our 2019 application. I hauled the shelving up from Home Depot in Valdosta and unloaded the 8 100-pound boxes with a handcart into the old courthouse. Thus began a month-long task of assembling and labeling shelving and stocking the shelves with the archival boxes and storage material. This prompted a purchase of a simple archival collection cataloging software called Recollector. It is Mac compatible, but also has a PC version as well. So April and May was spent learning the software, creating collection groups, and entering the first few items in the database. On June 7th, Elise Butler sent me the proposed text of the Doughboy marker, and though it did not carry the claim America's first Doughboy, it did state it was the first sculpture that E.M. Bicany created honoring the World War I soldiers. Almost a month later, Ms. Butler emailed me to announce our application was approved, and I needed to start planning the unveiling ceremony and program that is required by the Georgia Historical Society. The announcement was bittersweet, as it then was up to the foundation as the sponsoring organization to come up with the $2,500 shared cost of producing the marker. On July 2nd, I sent out an email to all members to ask if we were to fall short on this effort, would you feel comfortable about having foundation funds used in the shortfall? There were no objections received. However, it was a moot point. I started the drive to raise those funds by using the GoFundMe.com internet fundraiser site recommended by Brad McCall. In less than 6 weeks, with the help of 27 separate contributors from foundation members, businesses, family associates, and civic leaders, on August 6th, we were able to more than satisfy the copay. Elise Butler of the Georgia Historical Society was so impressed with our community response in such a short time, and when she received our check for the full $2,500, she immediately put the order in for the manufacturing of the marker. The unveiling ceremony is scheduled for Saturday, May 1st, 2021. One of the projects presented to the foundation in January 2020 was the desire to have the county commissioners formally declare the old courthouse as the Berrien County Historical Museum and Archive. Due to the virus, I have not been able to get that declaration. However, based on a previous authorization unanimously agreed upon by the commissioners, the foundation has been given full authority to use the courthouse as we see fit. On September 18th, I participated in a half-day webinar on archival practices training for small museums, presented by the Georgia Archives and the Georgia Council of the Arts. The training emphasized cataloging, environmental control, and archival preservation. The training session made me realize if the old courthouse was going to be a true historical museum and archive, it was necessary to create a storage and catalog system of our collection and preserve it in a secure and properly controlled environment. With that direction in mind, I applied again for the GHRAC grant, asking for $3,800 to install an air control system in the 2 separate record and storage rooms. First, the southeast corner office and storage area, and then the upstairs southeast corner tax and mortgage records room. This over-under arrangement of the rooms allowed for a shared dual-zone system, basically getting 2 for the price of 1. On October 5th, the Georgia Archives informed me that the grant request was approved. The foundation's responsibility in the 10-to-1 grant is $380. However, the cost of installation was $400 more than the grant approval. So I asked the county commissioners if they would cover the $400 shortfall. They agreed to do so. Since the time of the notification, we are still waiting for the final contract from the GHRAC so we can receive the funding to purchase the system. It is being held up due to the coronavirus restrictions on the GHRAC office personnel. Also in October, the county commissioners asked me to research the availability of preservation and restoration grants that the county might qualify for to preserve and restore the old courthouse. Several years ago, the courthouse was identified by the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation as one of Georgia's places in peril. I spent one entire week researching federal, state, and private grants that might be available if the courthouse could qualify. The Berrien County Courthouse is not relevant enough to qualify for the National Park Service preservation grants, though the NPS does offer funding for local grants through the State Preservation Division. However, since neither the City of Nashville nor Berrien County are Level 2 certified local governments having a certified historic district, those funding grants are not available to either entity. The Georgia Trust does offer a $10,000 matching grant each year for historic building preservation, and the USDA Rural Development offers loan assistance in building preservation, but that is about the extent of any preservation money currently available to the county. However, there are 2 or 3 grants for the arts available if the county chose to modify the use of the courtroom upstairs for some sort of small stage, music, or performing arts auditorium. I shared my research report with the commissioners, and it is in their hands to decide if they wish to pursue any of these options. In the meantime, I turned my attention to improving the military room display. Last year, Jimmy Griffin and I completed the Spirit of the American Doughboy exhibit. That was just the first step in making that room more informative and attractive. There are 4 panels that will allow for historical photos of Berrien County servicemen and women to be displayed for each of these periods of Berrien County history: Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, Gulf and Afghanistan War. These photos will be scanned and mounted as we receive them. I also created 6 two-sided banners depicting military recruitment posters from World War I and World War II. These 20 by 30 banners are hung above the display area and can be viewed from both sides. The room will also contain the Heroes of Berrien scrapbooks and military scrapbooks that Jimmy Griffin has been creating. These scrapbooks will be displayed on 2 6-foot tables on the west wall of the room. Over the tables is a panel recognizing the theme of the display room, Heroes of Berrien. I have completed that panel, which depicts photographs from one of the first exhibits of the foundation, created for display at the Perry Memorial Library in 2007. On each side of that panel, I was able to hang the 2 frame memorials of Julian Abel and Fred Belcher over the shaded window openings. Also over the newly placed door, I hung the 20 by 60 Heroes of Berrien banner used at the entrance of the Perry Memorial Library in 2007. The only thing left to finish the improved exhibit space is to replace the stained carpet. The county maintenance men recently removed the old AC unit out of the room. Morrison's no longer carries carpeting, so I am attempting to get Lowe's to help us with the cost and have their own contracted installers. Hopefully I can get that installed this next month. Finally, in preparation for the unveiling ceremony on May 1st, 2021, I created the 3-foot by 6-foot banner titled "The Story of America's First Doughboy," to be hung by the outside door of the north entrance of the old courthouse. I have just recently completed the courthouse clock exhibit using the original weights from the 1898 installation of the clock system. The Clockworks display was accomplished with the donation from Donald Powell of the Woodcase Framework. I had to modify some of the wood components, added a few pieces of hardware, and now the old weights that had been stored over in the old jail for decades now has a beautiful home to tell its story. So, as you can see, the achievements of the Berrien Historical Foundation have continued through the pandemic turmoil. Aside from my activity, other foundation members have also been active. Jimmy Griffin has continued to handle the financial records of the foundation and assisting in the fundraising of the Doughboy Marker. Skeeter Parker, of course, continues his extraction of local history out of old newspapers, and Gail Bailey continues to give unselfishly of her talents as a photographer, documenting Berrien County's history. And finally, several of you have also provided generous financial support to the foundation, which is absolutely essential for the foundation to continue its chartered goal for the preservation of the history of Berrien County.